All right. So you guys are gonna go ahead, and learn a little bit of what's the difference between restorative and transformative justice. And for the ones that haven't done, a transformative or restorative justice, you guys will have the opportunity here to be able to, run a transformative justice circle. So towards you guys will be able to have, that hands-on experience. So for whenever you guys go back to your guys' organization, your guys' school, or wherever you guys are at your guys' house, you guys will be able to, implement, some of the skills that I'm gonna be able to go ahead and teach y'all. I just want everyone to go ahead and go around and, if you guys can go ahead and please say your name, what organization or what school or where you guys are from. And then, you guys can go ahead and say, what was your New Year resolution? Have you, when followed up with it, or have you not followed up with it? So we can go ahead and start off over here on the right.
Okay. Darn it, I was so scared to go that way. My name is Melanie Cochran, and I'm with the John M. Lloyd Foundation. And New Year's resolution, I guess I made a resolution to eat more healthfully, and I have been, so that's good.
For sure.
My name is Norma Miller, and I'm with Sojourn Domestic Violence Shelter. And my New Year's resolution was have more patience with my teenage son, and I'm practicing that every day.
My name is Brittany. I work at a window between worlds. And let's see, one of my resolutions was to save more this year.
I'm Fran Sutton-Williams. I'm with the Window Between Worlds, and my New Year's resolution was to always tell myself the truth.
I'm Christy, and I'm also with the Window Between Worlds, and my New Year's resolution was to practice self-compassion more, and it's a daily struggle. I'm with you on that.
Are you here? Keep on finishing going around.
Oh, we're going here?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Candace Carnicelli. I'm from Common Peace Center for the Advancement of Nonviolence, and I think my only sort of subconscious resolution was to just be present, practice being more present in every moment, and continuing to try that.
My name is Amy Love. I'm also sick. From Long Beach Unified School District. I don't make New Year's resolutions. I live in the moment and try to do the best I can in every moment.
For sure.
Michael Cooper. I'm with El Nido Family Centers, and I didn't do a resolution.
My name is Stephanie Wedgeby. I'm also with El Nido Family Centers. I'm a therapist and social worker. And like many of you here, I'm just trying to take better care of myself.
Sure. Then we can go over here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon Aldridge. I'm Restorative Justice Coordinator at Pathways Community School. And I'm also Executive Director of a 501c3 youth development organization, Ready Inc., that I founded based out of the city of Inglewood. And I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I call them everyday resolutions, is to meet somebody new and learn something every day.
Hi, my name is Ronaldo Wilson from Kaiser, West LA. I don't think I have a New Year's resolution.
My name is Diana Mendoza, and I'm here as a mother to two little girls. And I have been striving to practice how to speak my truth more.
Sharon Sanchez, I'm medical supervisor for Unified School District. I think I'm just trying to be a healthier person inside and to learn
My name is Ashley Esparza. I'm from Riverside Unified School District as a school counselor, a clinical social worker. And one of my New Year's resolutions was to pray for my husband every day.
Sam Sunshine. I work at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles, and I also didn't do New Year's resolutions, but that I'm just trying to be a good mom.
Jeremy Ledmack, Chronicles Social Change, Fostering Media Connections. I didn't really, I have really done New Year's resolutions, but I just try hard.
Hello, I'm Tracy. I'm a preschool teacher and an ECHO trainer, and I also didn't make New Year's resolutions.
I'm Katie. I'm doing the social media and some graphic design for Echo. And while I don't do New Year's resolutions, I've been striving to make time for myself and my art.
I'm Bridget Gordon. I don't make
chair of the Integration Advisory Board for Los Angeles County, which is integrating public health, mental health, and substance abuse. And it's been really painful watching the way that residents are suffering and traumatized within the context of the healthcare system. And so that's why I'm here today.
Hi, my name is Mary Nichols. I'm a marriage and family counselor, but also the director of the West Side Anti-Violence Authority, working to educate the community.
I'm Zoe Foxley with the John Lloyd Foundation. And I also don't make resolutions, but I'm just working on having a more regular meditation practice.
Good afternoon, I'm Barbara Dewey. I'm an attorney at the Children's Law Center of Los Angeles, and I'm trying to practice more self-care, but I'm not doing very well.
My name is Laura Lipscomb. I'm a student, but I do a lot of work with Planned Parenthood, so I'm here to sort of expand all of that knowledge.
Hi, my name is Sakina Mirza. I'm a clinical social worker For the Child in Long Beach. Let's see, I made actually a lot of resolutions this year, and I don't usually. I can't list them all, but one of them was to drink more water, and I've been up and down with that.
Hi, my name is Tanira Chow. I'm from Children's Hospital LA, and one of my resolutions was to stretch more and listen to my body more, the signs, subtle signs that it tells me, and things that I need from it for it.
Hi everyone, I'm Joaquin Calderon. I'm with First 5LA. One of the many New Year's resolutions that I made was to complain less and protest more.
For sure. All right, and for the ones that came late again, my name's Flores, and I didn't really make a New Year's resolution, so I'm an addict, and so I go ahead and I worry about the first 24 hours of my day. I don't worry about the past or the present, towards worrying about the future. I'm just worrying about the first 24 hours just to get through by my day. I've been sober off of crystal and cocaine for the past 4 years, and I've been sober off of alcohol for the past 17 months. So I'm going to go ahead and ask everybody to go ahead and if they can get up and push the chairs to their back, and we're going to get in a circle. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to play a game called the tap game. Okay. I'm going to have you to be one of my tappers, okay?
Okay.
You're going to be one of my tappers. Miss, you're going to be one of my tappers, okay? So, both of you guys are going to be my tappers, right? All right, so we're going to go ahead and play the tap game. And so I'm go ahead and ask for everybody. We're all going to go ahead and we're all going to start off from the same position, We're all going to go ahead and sit like this in our knees, right? In our knees. So we only have 2 people that are going to be tapping. So these are the people that are going to be going around and be tapping people around. And so these are the rules right here. These are the rules for the game, Follow all the rules, And then the first rule is if you are tapped once, repeat all the rules out loud until the end of the game. Rule 2, if you are tapped twice, stand up and repeat all the rules out loud until the end of the game. Rule 3, if you are tapped 3 times, you can do whatever you want. Okay, so they're both. You guys don't have to be on your knees. You guys are gonna go ahead and be the ones tapping. Everybody. Either once or twice or 3 times. You guys are the ones that are able to choose who's gonna go ahead and be tapping. Okay, all right. So these are my 2 people that are gonna go ahead and be coordinating that. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start off by going ahead and tapping people.
So are they, just to be clear, so those
Yes.
are the rules, that's what,
Yes, those are the rules right there.
that's what people are repeating?
Yes, they're going to repeat those rules right there.
And is there a minimum or maximum amount of people we're supposed to be tapping?
Yeah, so the whole point is that you tap one person once, you tap another person twice, another person 3 times, and then you go on, so on, so on. And you can, and as well too, you can re-tap that person to either go ahead and tap them once again, so they can either, go ahead and get back on their knees, or they can go ahead and stand up, or they can either do either or. If anybody has any bad knees, please go ahead and let me know, because I know a couple of YJC members have had bad knees and stuff like that. We'll go ahead and we can let y'all, you guys can sit down, you guys can still participate as well too, Just go ahead and communicate that with me, por favor. And so, you guys can go ahead and lead. So.
Repeat all the rules out loud until the end of the game. If you're tapped twice, stand up and repeat all the rules out loud until the end of the game. If you're tapped, stand up and repeat the rules out loud until the end of the game.
Tap once. If you're tapped twice, you can only stand up. Tap once.
If you're tapped once, repeat all the rules out loud 3 times. Tap once, repeat all the rules out loud until the end of the game. If you're tapped once, repeat all. If you're tapped once.
You playing too, right?
If you tap once, repeat all the rules out loud until the end of the game.
All right, for sure. Time is up. So, what you guys go ahead and think about this game? Curious, right? Curious, right? So, the people that were tapped once, can someone go ahead and share, on the little experience of being tapped once? Who was tapped once?
I got it wrong.
You got it wrong, right?
I just saw people stand up, so I'm like, oh, I gotta stand up. So I appreciate you for course correcting me.
All right. What about for the?
I felt like I was being punished.
Feel like you're being punished, right? What about frustrated? Anything else? All right. What about for the people that were? Go ahead.
Well, no, I was tapped twice.
You tapped twice. All right. So go ahead and share, because that was my segue.
So I did it, and then I didn't really want to.
You didn't really want to, for sure. Hey, that's
Then I
good.
got tapped 3 times, and I felt that was good because I got to sit down, but then I got tapped once again.
Okay, for sure.
It had been a while before we were tapped. We kind of looked at each other like, we haven't been tapped. But we felt left out, but then we were kind of glad that we hadn't been tapped at the same time.
Okay,
Yeah.
for sure. All right. Was anybody tapped here 3 times? And what did you guys, can have like one person share right now? What did you guys do when you guys were tapped one time?
I felt lucky. Really.
Felt lucky, right?
Yeah, I felt like I could do anything at all, and it made me move around the room where I had been standing in one spot.
All right.
Yeah, I just felt lucky. It was like, pressure's off me.
For sure. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think for me, I didn't know what to do with myself.
You didn't know what to do, right? You didn't know what to do, right?
I felt unsure, like I didn't know what to do, and then I thought, can I go tap, if I want to, I can do whatever I want. Can I go tap everyone 3 times, and so they can do whatever they want? But
All right.
I really do
You didn't know that, right?
I wondered why the people tapping didn't tap everybody 3 times.
Right? So the whole point of this was like towards to just see the aspect of other things and go ahead and just, seeing the rules and looking at them and, just being able to visualize the rules, We have laws and stuff like this, in our system that we see these things, and we say these things are okay, And then, when everyone that got tapped 3 times, some other people said, oh, I feel good, I can do whatever I want, I was able to sit down or whatever, right? There's only one person that I actually seen and I actually heard was over here. When I heard you guys talking and stuff, you're like, hey, you tapped me 3 times, right? Like we can, you already tapped 3 times, you can tap me, right? So towards, right? The whole point, everybody that was tapped 3 times kind of forgot about everybody else in a way that I can do whatever I want. The rule doesn't say that I can go around and not tap everybody 3 times to liberate everybody, to free everybody. So towards we're in this system that we're going ahead and some people are free, some people are not, and we just go ahead and we let people see them being on their knees and suffering, right? When you have the accessibility to go ahead and free them from that pain. So towards, the point of the game is just towards, like sometimes when we see something out there, it looks a certain way, but sometimes you're able to challenge it and be able to ask, other questions and actually dig more deeper into the root of it, And that's one of the things that the tap game does. It's just you can able to see other things in a different aspect. You have a question?
No, as a person tapping, here's what my process went. It was like, oh, I hope I do this right. I hope I do this right. And I'm all about justice, so I'm like, I have to do this fairly. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll go back and I'll start 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, and that's what I did.
Right?
To the best of my ability, but the whole time I was thinking, am I really being fair? Like, did I,
Yeah, for the ones that were able to go ahead and tap the people, it seems okay. I want to be fair to everybody, I don't want to be unfair to everybody, If I tap this person once, I gotta tap the person after them once too, or I want to tap them twice. So it's just like towards like as well too. You feel like you wanted to be fair as well too, and as well everybody else that they went ahead and got tapped 3 times. They wanted to be all right, well. I'm going to be over here real quick, and I would just watch everybody and see what everyone's going to do, because everyone feels confused, and they're like, but you're reading the rules, though, if you were tapped once, you hear the rules, right? You hear the rules consistently. You're hearing them, and, you don't think about, like, oh, man, I can go around and tap everybody, and we can be done, right? And so towards that was just the point of the game, just to be able to see something else through a whole different lens. And thank you guys, for participating in this. And so towards, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys a slideshow. This image that's up here, it's an image that if some of y'all, that have went ahead and Google, scooter prison pipeline or scooter jail track, this image will come out. And so towards, it just talks about how young people are being funneled through it. This is the law enforcement here, LAPD. Right here, this is over here in Eco Parque. Most of the time, everybody goes ahead and they get locked up. They go to the criminal justice system, and just towards, they end up being out there and just towards inside either the county jail and being inside prison or being inside the juvenile house or camp, foster home, or they just end up being homeless. And that's one of the things. And this right here, this was an action with the No More Jails Coalition. We went ahead and went to the board supervisors to go ahead and ask them to not go ahead and build the women's prison they're trying to build in Lancaster, And so we worked hard, to go ahead and convince them to not build that women's prison. Street justice, TJ, and school justice and court justice. Anybody know the difference between those? No? All right, for sure. We're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about a little bit about that. And what's the difference between street justice? Street justice is like a form that I steal something from you, you're going to come back and you're going to steal something from me. That's street justice for you. School justice, you got into trouble in school, I suspend you. That's school justice. I go ahead, I break the law, I go ahead, I'm in a high-speed chase, I go ahead and I get 5 years in the state penitentiary. That's court justice for them. So this image right here, just from the first look of it, what do you guys think about it? What do you guys see in this image?
Black, a white cop and black person.
Right? Is there anything that sticks out through the whole process of this image? What sticks out the most for you?
How small the dark person is compared to the light person.
All right?
How he has a book in every.
How he has a book in every scene, right? That's the one thing that sticks out to the whole scene, right? You have this young person going to a school through a metal detector with the book. You have him going ahead and getting warned by school police with his book. He's at school trying to learn. He's going ahead and he's getting in trouble by the teacher, right? And his book is with him throughout the whole process. He goes ahead. Law enforcement is waiting out there for him. Gets arrested, right? The book is still with him. He goes to juvenile halls, and the book is still with him. And so towards, we go ahead and we have our young people going through this school or jail track line. you know. And so towards, you know, this right here, this is school justice for them, you know. We have our young people being funneled through this system. You know, a lot of young people go ahead and they go to school, they want to learn, you know. I was that one young person that, yeah, I was a troublemaker, but at the same time, I wanted to go to school and learn, you know. History has always been my favorite subject. I've always wanted to always be, you know, a humanities teacher. You know, right after I went to college, I'm like, man, humanities is about history. This is my subject. This is what I'm going to go ahead, hopefully one day teach. And so we go ahead and we go back from the 1600s. Youth are seen a whole different way from the beginning, right? From going ahead and having them, you know, they've always thought, you know, that kids were born with the devil inside them, you know? And so towards where the first public system went ahead and was created, you know, and this whole first public system was created was to go ahead and was used for religion to go ahead and grab young people like that, you know? And as well towards, you know, they went ahead and they taught the young people, you know, certain things they have to learn. They have to sit in a straight row. They have to be quiet. They have to obey, you know, to the teacher. You know, and then it goes ahead and it breaks it down even more. And then it goes ahead and it talks about Thomas Jefferson. You know, and towards how he engaged with schools and go ahead and building workforces, going ahead and building the new nation, you know, that's going ahead and having, you know, work labor for young people. You know, they go ahead and they wanted to go ahead and lock young people up. They want to go ahead and imprison them, you know, because, you know, certain, you know, kids act out a certain way. So they're like, man, what's wrong with this little kid, you know? What's wrong with him, you know? And so really no one really goes ahead and really acts, and they just want to go ahead and first thing they do is push him out of the class, lock him up. So this whole trauma goes ahead and relates from going in from centuries back, you know. Are any of you guys fast readers? Because this slide shows 87, so I'm gonna skip a few. All right. Right, for cheap labor, what I was just talking about, you know, and people have been used for labor, you know. And it just goes on, and it goes on. And for have you guys ever worked at a job that you know, that you're supposed to pull out a certain product and it's supposed to come out a certain way, right? Right. So that's how like the grading system came out, was through, you know, through the labor, was towards, you know, if you went ahead and you did a good job, you know, you used to get a certain letter, you know. And as well, that comes down inside the educational system, is that when you do so much of a good job, you get an A, you get a B. If you do a bad job, you get an F, right? And it's the same thing that worked on with going ahead and having that, you know, way before it even hit the public educational system. It was inside, you know, inside the labor system. So it just goes on, it goes in and talking about just the history of educating young people. You guys know who this guy is right here? A lot of people know who this guy is right here, right? Was anybody there for the uprising for the Watts or anything like that? You know, right? So the Watts uprising, the anniversary is coming up soon, you know, and especially for, does anybody know about, you know, Florence and Normandy? What the history about Florence and Normandy, right? Right? So that's coming up too, you know, the anniversary for that too is coming up soon, you know. A lot of this police brutality is coming up.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so for Florence and Normandy is where right after Rodney King went ahead and got beat by LAPD, you know, community members went ahead and took over that corner and went ahead and decided they seen anybody that was coming inside the community that was non of color, they were going ahead and grabbing them and pulling them out. Either going ahead and beating them up, stealing their stuff, you know. Stores were going ahead and getting robbed. Buildings were going ahead and burning up, you know. And so towards, you know, it was towards whatever, you know, they said it was a riot, you know, and all that stuff. But it was more of an uprising, you know, the community members didn't know what to do, you know. It's something, you know, the first time that an African-American actually went ahead and got filmed, that got beaten by LAPD. Think about it, all African-Americans before that, you know, because that technology wasn't invented yet, you know. They have gotten beaten, they were murdered, you know. And so then we go ahead and we talk about, you know, the wars on drugs as well too, inside our communities, you know. These drugs that were going ahead and affecting our community members. You know, and then we have these laws, Proposition 21. Proposition 21, which the three-strike law, you know, that went ahead and has affected a lot of young people as well too, as well a lot of adults, you know. It goes ahead and funnels them through the injustice system. Right? And then going ahead and have from the 80s, we go ahead and we have the zero tolerance policy. The zero tolerance policy is, you know, does anybody want to go ahead and share about it or anything that they know about from the zero tolerance?
So in schools, like if a kid has a weapon or drugs, they're expelled or something. There's just no, you don't,
There's no excuse, right?
Process,
Yeah.
There's no excuse, there's no defense, there's no mitigation. It's just they're out.
Right? The zero tolerance, you know, that's when we go ahead and we start seeing law enforcement being inside schools. We go ahead and we start having metal detectors. You know, we have random searches. We have the dogs coming in, you know, searching for drugs and stuff like that, you know, right? And for people that were inside school way before that, you know, I've heard older folks, you know, talk about, you know, hey, and we never really had school police inside my campus, you know. I don't know how that feels, you know. But me growing up, my sisters growing up, my brothers growing up, you know, we've always had school police inside our schools, you know, because this has went ahead and affected us, you know. Having school police has affected so many young people. It has affected me in a way, you know, that I don't trust law enforcement inside school. I don't feel safe. You know, and I'm supposed to feel safe in my own campus when I'm going ahead and I'm dealing with the trauma that I have in my house, from my mom getting beaten, you know, from, you know, the neighborhood drama going ahead and happening, from people going ahead and pulling guns out on me. You know, I'm dealing with that trauma and I'm trying to go to school to escape it, but I can't because I have police going ahead and searching me, just like how she's going ahead and getting searched. You know, and so we go ahead and we have the police department, we have probation, we have all this stuff that's been inside the school, you know. And so then we have the war on gangs. The war on gangs, it goes ahead, it's on towards the Cal Gang database. Does anybody know what the Cal Gang database is? No, right? You know what the Cal Gang database is?
A little bit.
A little bit, right? You want to share a little bit about it?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you're more knowledgeable than I am, but it's a way for, I believe, LAPD and law enforcement agencies throughout the state to track without a lot of oversight. And if someone is thought to be a member of a gang, they're entered in this database, or even whether or not they're actually a member of the gang or not. And so that can have a lot of effects about gang injunctions and ability to travel freely.
Yeah, right? So that's practically it, you know, right there. That's the Cal Gang database, right?
What is Cal Gang?
Cal Gang database, right? So LAPD, Sheriff, and ICE have access to this Cal Gang database. So it's just where they go ahead and they stop and frisk a young person. They pull out the FI card, the field investigation card. You know, they go ahead and they say what neighborhood you're from, you have any tattoos, can we take any pictures and stuff like that. And that's only to categorize one individual as a lead gang member, you know. And so then it leads on to the gang injunction. The gang injunction is that, you know, it's not for one individual, but it's for the whole neighborhood, right? Gang injunctions didn't really go ahead and come up, you know, out here in LA and towards, you know, the 80s and the 90s. That's when gang injunctions went ahead and came up out here. And we started seeing, you know, gang injunctions throughout the time, you know, were being put in other neighborhoods that, you know, they were needed, up in Salinas, up in, you know, Eagle Rock, and places where, you know, that it went ahead and it was leading to gentrification for, like, Latino communities, for African-American communities, for Filipino communities, for Asian communities as well, too. And so they just take some out of that community, because if you're known as a gang, you know, it was practically, you can't be in that neighborhood. It was a safety zone that you're supposed to, if you're being here, you'll get arrested. If she's part of my neighborhood and she's my neighbor, we both come outside, we both can get arrested because we can't be from 100 feet from each other. As well, that affects families, and they have to move, and they can't be where they were growing up. So towards, it goes ahead and it creates tension to other people because they see, oh man, who's this guy moving over here, tatted and everything, he's from a different neighborhood, That's how young people go ahead and get shot and get killed, because, they're coming up to a neighborhood that they don't know because they were forced to be moved out. And then, property value raises up as well too, and it affects them, Rent at one point for a single unit was what, 500, 700? And now what is it? 1,000, 1,400, 1,500, that shit's high as fuck, man, to be real, So it talks about, the gang junction affects, affects property value, affects families, as well as affects, individuals, And we go ahead and this is one of the state prisons that was built, We go ahead and throughout the whole time from the 80s and the 90s, we're going ahead and we're seeing more prisons being built. More and more prisons being built. My auntie did 13 years in the state Chinchilla prison. I used to go visit her all the time, And throughout the whole time, I didn't know that I was passing, different prisons. And I was going ahead and I'm like, oh, I never wondered that, But I just knew that I was seeing my auntie at the state penitentiary, and that's it,
These are all California, right?
These are all California prisons right here. And the first time I ever seen this slideshow, I was like, man, I didn't even know there's so many prisons out there like that. They were built. Anybody tell me how many universities or Cal States were built throughout this time? Two, right? 2 Cal States and 1 university was built. Only three schools that are supposed to be leading for higher education. And we have 20 state prisons that were built throughout that time. Right?
I'm sorry, what's the time period?
It's from 84 all the way to the 90s, to the late 90s. Right? So, way back then, during, I think it was around the 60s, California's educational system was, one of the best educational systems that we had. But then throughout that, we went ahead and throughout time, going to hitting the 80s, we dropped our educational system, That's when we stopped going ahead and you see the defunding in education, People start going ahead and start, getting greedy, and they're like, oh, we if they're bad, fuck it, we got to suspend them. The zero tolerance shit comes through, And so towards, now, we're the number one leading and going ahead and building prisons and locking young people up. And we're in the bottom in education. We're in the bottom in education, and we're not up there no more. California was up there. California was once, known for its education, but now we're known as going ahead and locking up more young people up. And then the YJC created this campaign for community members and organizations to fight for the 5% campaign. 5% campaign is the LA for Youth campaign, and that's to go ahead and build jobs, to build youth centers, and to create peace builders / intervention workers, right? These jobs out here are not just summer jobs, you work for 3 months and you get a stipend. Now these are yearly job rounds, right? And in order to get this money, we want to go ahead and get this money to defund law enforcement so we can reallocate it and towards, create a youth development department. Because California doesn't have a youth development department that oversees education and, where's the money going and stuff like that. LA County doesn't have one, LA City doesn't have one, so towards, we're behind. New York City has one. Chicago has one. We don't have one. Why don't we have one, California's one of the biggest states out there. Why don't we have that? Right? So this is the game we just played right now. About transformative justice. When you guys hear about transformative justice, what do you guys think about?
I think restorative justice.
Think of restorative justice, right? So transformative justice. Can I have a volunteer to go ahead and read this?
The growing alternative to court and incarceration is an throughout the world, from Canada to the United Kingdom, from South Pacific to South Africa, nations are turning to restorative, or for YJC, transformative justice to divert people from expensive, inhumane, and ineffective court and incarceration systems.
Right? And so when we go ahead and we talk about transformative justice, we don't use restorative justice because our relationship has been different, and as far as we know other people that do restorative justice and everything, and restorative justice is a good tool to use. Don't ever, want to throw that tool away, It's like when you have a wrench and it doesn't work, because it doesn't fit, you don't throw it away, you keep it, right? You want to keep that in your pocket, and transformative justice is just another tool to have inside that toolbox, right? So towards it's like, how do you go ahead and have someone from Watts, Barrio Grape, from a neighborhood from Watts, and a neighborhood from out in South Central, La Florencia 13, how do you have them build a relationship together? Two neighborhoods that have never got along together. How do you do it? Art? Right? You could do art, right? But it's like their art is tagging and going ahead and crossing people out, psh, 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 slashing you out. You put RP to your homie, we crossing out, rest in peace. So it's like, right? That it's forms of different ways that people have tried to grab them and try to build them together and trying to communicate. So transformative justice goes ahead and is able to make people go ahead and come together. The torch bringing two different neighborhoods together, right? You sit them down, you go ahead and you talk about, who was hurt, what is the root cause of the issue, how can we go ahead and build off of this, how can we go ahead and transform a relationship that was never there. Restorative justice talks about restoring our relationship that we had in the past. The three of us say we're best friends, we're going ahead, we play basketball all the time, and then one day you go ahead and you hit on my girlfriend. I'm like, oh man, you can't do that, man. How you do that? and so it's like, you and me, our relationship is there no more. But we come and we sit down and we talk about, all right, let's restore our relationship and everything, right? That's how restorative justice works. We're able to restore that. The one thing that we had in the past is with teachers, you're able to restore that because, you at first you guys have a positive and then you have a negative, interaction. But restorative justice, what they don't do is like, what about for those people that were never ever getting along from the beginning? How do you go ahead and you bring those two people into the table? So you bring them into the table with transformative justice. That's one way to go ahead and bring them up into the table. Oh, shit. There you go.
The other one. No, forward.
Oh, I didn't realize I passed this one right here. Yeah. My bad. Right? So, yeah, this is what I was talking about. It talks about going ahead and getting to the root cause of the issue with the person who did the harm, And so, towards for Watts Barrio Grape and La Florencia 13, you go ahead and you bring them into the table. You talk about, okay, I know our harm has been done. Like, you killed some of my homies, I killed some of your homies. We went ahead and we done drive-bys to each other, So you make accountability towards one another to be able to, transform a relationship into it, You create something new that has never been there, Because if you ever seen these neighborhoods, they don't get along with each other at all.
I had a question. I was wondering if the Youth Justice Coalition, this transformative justice is ever used between parent and youth?
Yeah, it is used, done with parent and youth. It's used in many of different various ways. You can use it with neighborhoods. You can use it with individuals. As well with parents. You can use that. In a way, it's like with the parent. You go ahead and you're like, oh, you're my son. You did bad. All right. You stand in the corner. Or I'm taking this item away from you and this and that. But this, you're able to talk to them and sit down with them and able to ask them, hey, what was the harm that was done? That I harmed you. You harmed me, this is the way how you affected me, and I'm sorry for affecting you this way. You take responsibility of what you did, and the other person takes responsibility of what they did as well too, because in reality, we always like to point fingers to people. Oh, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this to me, right? And so what transformative justice wants to do It's like we're not pointing fingers to people. Oh, you hurt me, you know, this day you went ahead and, you know, you stole my book and that's not cool, you know, and this and that. Nah, it's talking about, okay, I understand, you know, you took my book and you probably needed it, you know, that day. And it's like, you know, it's my bad that, you know, I didn't hear you out, you know, that you were trying to communicate something with me, you know. It's just, you know, about relationship, you know, and building with that, especially with parents, you know, like in a formal way is that, you know, you want to know like what's wrong with that child because you want to get, you know, too deep into the root so you can prevent that from happening again. Anybody else want to take pictures of this? You good? Your question?
Yeah, I teach something like this in my classes, and it's consistently the men that get up and walk out as I'm trying to teach it.
Yeah.
It just goes so against what we've been taught, what we've learned.
Yeah, it is.
When you teach this to people, I assume you teach this.
Yeah.
How do you get them to stick around?
Like who though? Who's my audience? To stick around.
Any males that.
Any males? Like for me, in one way, to keep young people that are young men, young male, is just sharing about my experiences and how this has helped me out. How other things have helped me out as well too. You know, as well too. When you're in a TJ circle, you're able to go ahead and talk about, you know, your experiences and your stuff with that person. You know, because what happens in the circle stays in the circle. You know, where you're able to go ahead, what you learn, you're able to unlearn. You know, and learn something new. And so with young men, you know, I always have a tendency to tell them my story because you could relate to them, you know, because, you know, from you, I don't know anything about you, you know, as much, you know, besides you being here today in this conference. And, you know, later on, I don't know if you ever been to the juvenile house or if you ever have, or if you ever been suspended from school. But, you know, it's that one thing that you share that story to that person. They're like, oh, man, like, he's been through what I've been through too, you know. It's really similar, you know. What's the difference between him and me? You know, yeah, he wears glasses, I don't wear glasses. Like, you know, that's the difference, you know, like, what is it? We're both human beings, you know? And it's just like being able to connect with them and sharing your story. Because that's one thing that has impacted me is just, you know, hearing people out and hearing their stories from, you know, me hearing little kids' stories, from me hearing adults' stories, you know, has helped me out a lot. And keeping people's attention like that, you know, and just speaking the truth to them, like, hey, man, like, shit, if you want to leave, you can leave. I'm not holding you back, you know? If you want to change your route, you want to change your life, just sit down, you know, it's cool. And so these are some of the places that have done restorative justice right here, you know. Another place too that has done restorative justice, Chicala. You know, the Chiapas as well too have done a way of a community circle, and so towards this is how they make decisions, this is the way how they communicate with one another, this is how the way, you know, they run their things, this is how their system works. You know, and one of the things the Youth Justice Coalition has seen is, you know, what our other community members, what our other communities out there have been doing, you know, that have been working with them. And so this is how, you know, transformative justice was created, you know. As well too, they have done, you know, circles, you know, they will have things, you know, that, you know, has affected them, you know, things that, you know, they will have wanted, you know, go ahead and create. Brazil went ahead and created the children's rights state, and so they went ahead and I don't know if you guys ever heard of the statue that was made by 1,000 hands. Nah, right? So they went ahead and they went around going ahead and asking community members, asking young people what are the stuff they need, what are the stuff they want, you know. So towards, you know, this is how they figure out what they want. And they talk about this statue about, you know, that's the statue that's made by 1,000 hands, you know. And it's just not, you know, just 1,000, but it has been thousands of people that went ahead and said, you know, this is what we want in our community, you know. And so towards, you know, this is how some of the things that went ahead and was created was the children's rights.
No youth can serve more than 3 years.
Yeah. Right? No more than 3 years, right? But here in California, you have heard what? Youth have served what? Life sentences? Life sentences, right? You know, no possibility of parole, right? You know, going ahead and serving a maximum of 100 years, right? How many people, no one's going to live 100 years in the state penitentiary. That's a reality, man. And they're over-sexing, you know, with going ahead and putting young people inside prisons, you know, giving them extreme sentencings. And so then we would just talk about, you know, inside the prison system and the courts and how stuff has been used, you know. And this is just a little bit more different of a model of how RJ, you know, has been used. you know, how many people have been here, have been inside the court system? Right? They had, all right. So you guys know how it feels to be inside the court system, you know, where you're not able to be heard about, you know, well, shit, I stole this fucking candy bar because I was hungry, man. I'm homeless. What you want me to do, right? You go ahead and you talk about, like, you know, the court only sees you like, oh, well, you just broke the law. That's it, you know, well, there's no harm, you know, that to put you in the county jail for 31 days, 91 days, you know. And so what transformative justice does is that, you know, why did you steal that candy bar? What are the tools that you need so you wouldn't have to steal again? What resources can we provide you again with that, you know? And that's what transformative justice does with that young person. And not only with young people, but with adults too. You know, you're able to use that with them because, you know, and the reality is that, you know, not everybody's out there, you know, is very privileged and very fortunate to be able to have certain things out there. And it just goes ahead and it talks about, you know, how towards, you know, how we want to work with other people in a different way, in a different scale. How can we restore something that has never been restored? And so this is something I already touched based on towards, you know, the neighborhoods, right? How can we restore our relationship that we never had? That was right there, you know. One of the YJC members, you know, his name is Abraham Colunga. You know, he used to always use the concept of the Bloods and the Crips all the time, you know. And it's like how do you bring the Bloods and the Crips together, you know? Two neighborhoods that, you know, later on they never went ahead and got along. You know, these neighborhoods have been going at it for years already, you know, since the 60s. And so it's like towards, you know, like right after they were created, like the tension went ahead and started, you know, going ahead and being done to them, you know. People have been killed because of the neighborhood, you know. How do you bring someone, a Blood and a Crip, to be able to get along and be able to say, man, this is my friend, you know. He's from Rolling 60s, you know, and I'm from Pyru Blood. You know, how do you be able to bring them together and be able to say, you know, we hang out together and we have barbecues, right? So Transformative Justice has helped that out to bring neighborhoods together, you know, bring individuals together. You know, the ones that want to leave that neighborhood, they want to go ahead and redo their life again. And, you know, say, hey, you know, like, I know you've done some foul to me. I've done some foul stuff to you. You know, I'm sorry I've caused harm to you and you have caused harm to me in this way, you know. Either by going ahead and jumping me, by calling me names, by stealing something from me, by going ahead and killing someone from me, right? And it's just a healing process that takes steps, you know, and it's towards, you know, transformative justice. We don't expect you to be healed in one day off of just one circle. This can go through various sessions through this process, you know. We have our young people inside Freely High School that, you know, have been through the transformative justice, you know, circles and everything, and they're still not properly healed yet, you know. They still have that trauma of being with that certain individual because, you know, they didn't like that person because of the streets, because of the neighborhood they're from. But they're going through that process of, you know, being able, you know, to overcome that. So one day they'll be say, man, this guy, like, I respect him, but, you know, I might not like him, but I respect him in a way, you know, that he's a certain individual, and I'm not going to cause him no harm no more because that has caused me harm as well, too. And so this is just some of the stuff that, you know, there's just more talking about, you know, about restorative justice inside the classrooms and going in and having it inside there.
Can you get a picture of the last slide?
Yes.
Thank you.
Guys, go ahead and grab it. Yeah, grab this one.
Okay, got it.
Pass that up. Pass that up. Try to click in there. I don't know how to do this. So in about 5 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna break into groups, and we'll, how many people? How many? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we have 28 people, right? Anybody good with math here? No? Someone pull out a calculator, please. Because I'm not good with math.
How many groups do you want?
Let's see what we can do it for.
7 people.
7 people? All right. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll break up into 4 groups of 7, right? And so, break into these groups that, someone that you don't know, someone that you have been sitting to, try to remove yourself from them, so like that you have the opportunity to be able to work with someone new. And what I'm asking for everyone, we're going to break into these 4 circles, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give y'all, some roles and some assignments to go ahead and do. These papers that I give y'all, these are ways of how to run a circle, how to go ahead and just run it and facilitate it as well too. So like that you guys can go ahead and can become facilitators inside a transformative justice circle. And right now what I'm going to talk about is what's the difference between a peace builder and law enforcement. Peace builder / intervention worker against LAPD, sheriff, Bell Gardens PD, Huntington Park PD, just overall law enforcement. Anybody know the difference between a peace builder / intervention worker and between law enforcement? What's the difference between them?
I'm guessing, I would imagine that the peace builder might be more invested in the community and might come at it from a place of trust and wanting to build as opposed to wanting to regulate and control, and usually from the outside.
All right. Anybody else?
The peace builder doesn't have power over.
Doesn't have power over? Anybody else?
Did you mention there's an intervention worker in between?
Yeah, peace builder / intervention worker.
So the intervention worker might focus on trying to solve the issue, finding different strategies to solve the issue, and maybe starting at that place, as opposed to the peace worker might start with merely starting to explore what the harm, it's been committed, etc., as opposed to going directly into the solution.
All right. And so the difference between a law enforcement and a peace builder / intervention worker is that law enforcement, the first thing they do is they, they stop and frisk young people. They don't go ahead and quote unquote ask them, hey, how's your day going so far? Do you feel safe today in the streets? Are you okay? Do you need anything? Because they are supposed to go ahead and serve and protect, but I don't see them serving and protecting. All I see them is going ahead and stopping, frisking, and going ahead and shooting young people each time. So what a peace builder / intervention worker will do is going ahead and actually, ask a young person, hey, are you guys okay? You guys feel safe? Is anybody missing with you guys inside the neighborhood? They'll go ahead and they'll do is towards, intervene, so towards that young person wouldn't go ahead and feel like, they did something wrong. They know they probably did something wrong, but as well it doesn't put more guilt into them, It doesn't go ahead and blame them for the cause of their action as well too, because sometimes, young people do certain things that they don't understand why they're doing these things, why they're acting out, But it's certain these things, that the peace builder / intervention worker will help them out to get through this, If it's for addiction, a peace builder / intervention worker will know how to deal with addiction because they've had deal with addiction. If it has to do with neighborhood drama, they've been through the neighborhood drama. They know who to go reach out to if someone got shot. They know who to reach out to if someone's messing with someone else, They know that stuff, because they have the ears of the community, they have the eyes of the community as well too. Law enforcement can't go ahead and do that. Community members go ahead and hear law enforcement coming, oh, I'm not speaking to the police, man. I'm not telling them nothing, because, later on I'm going to get in trouble with the neighborhood and they're going to see me. They see me talking to the cops, they're going to think I'm a rat, right? And those things do really happen out there, where, individuals have been falsely executed, as rats out there. But they, they were just doing, they're like asking for help for law enforcement, But law enforcement doesn't provide them with that help, They're like, man, like when you go to a law enforcement, oh man, I'm high right now, man, like I need some help. I don't know what to do. What are they gonna do? They're gonna lock that person up. They're gonna isolate that person so they can detox themselves, And so towards where a peace builder / intervention worker will actually help that person to find a sober living home. Where can they go ahead and go right now momentarily? So towards, they're able to, calm down. They can come down after a high. And so towards, they're able to start afresh. because a peace builder / intervention worker has been through that. And by just, the money that's being used for one law enforcement, just for one law enforcer, you can go ahead and use that money back to go ahead and create 3 jobs. They will go ahead and it will be 3 peace builders / intervention workers. They'll create 3 jobs for three people instead of 1 person and 3, so towards, someone that is more rooted to the community, someone that's able to work more with that young person, someone that's able to work with the family, better work with the mom, the brother, the sister, the auntie, the grandma that stays at home, taking care of her grandchildren, because they're out there in the streets, want to be the baddest and the biggest, better than Al Capone, That intervention worker will be able to be there with that young person and be able to guide them, and so towards where they won't have to fall through that route again of, going ahead either relapsing, going ahead and serving life, or going ahead, and just taking their own life away. Because when you call law enforcement and you tell them, I'm trying to take my life away, if anything, they'll take your life away before you take your own life. And that has happened. One of our young person at YJC, called law enforcement saying that, I want to take my life away, and this and that. And, law enforcement came, and they're the first ones that responded. They came, no mental health came. No one from mental health came and provided the services for them. They were not the ones that, law enforcement didn't reach out to them and told them, look, we have someone that, needs some help, And this young person was known, to have some mental issues and stuff. And so towards, they went ahead and they seen him, and they thought that he was reaching for something. In those 2 split seconds, they shot him. He was killed, right? But they didn't know what he was reaching for. They didn't know that what he was doing, He was just reaching to pick up his pants, And he got shot and killed right there and then in his own house. So towards, where it's like a peace builder that would have been called immediately, would have went ahead and reacted differently. Would have went ahead and told him, hey, all right, I'm not going to shoot you. I'm not going to do anything, Do you feel safe? Do you need me to go ahead and take you out the atmosphere that you're at and put you in a whole different atmosphere where you're able to feel safe? If it's either mentally, psychologically, if it's either emotionally, or if it's going ahead and just being physically safe, in a place safe, Because sometimes you might not feel safe in a place because you don't feel like someone's going to hit you or someone's going to kill you or someone's going to come and get you. Sometimes it's just emotionally, that you don't feel safe. And, law enforcement doesn't understand that. But a peace builder does, because they get this training to go ahead and know how to go ahead and react to these things. As well, too, if an individual is trying to fight with them or something, they know the process and everything, how to go ahead and de-arm or go ahead and de-escalate, or certain conflicts with 2 individuals, or if someone's trying to come at them like, oh, man, you don't know me, and they try to get crazy with them and they try to swing at them. They know how to go ahead and do that because they get trained to know how to go ahead and not use force on them. There's a certain way of how to grab a young person and go ahead and grab their arms and put them so they don't hurt themselves, they don't hurt no one else. Without you grabbing them and slamming them on the ground and going ahead and putting the gun on top of their head, and then, out of nowhere you think that he's reaching for something, and you shoot them. Right? So that's the difference between a peace builder and an intervention worker, as well with law enforcement. So now I'm just going to ask you guys to go ahead and we can break into the groups. We can have one group over here in this corner, one group in that corner, and as well in this corner, and then in this corner. And remember, try to go ahead and circle up with the person that you have not met, someone new. If not, I will ask you and I will move you. So 7 to group. Let's work this out right here.
Sweet. Thank you, man.
All right, for y'all, I'm going to go ahead. I want someone to be a facilitator. Another person will go ahead and be a person that was caused harm. Another person that was the victim. So say for 2 friends, they got into a fight, either because the other friend, stole something from him, and you guys want to go ahead and, you want to transform that relationship into towards there, but either hang out with each other or just, able to squash the beef and move on with each other. And so towards, when you do a transformative justice circle, You have a facilitator, you have the two individuals, and as well too, those two individuals are able to bring someone into the circle that's able to back them up. It doesn't go ahead and it's like, oh yeah, I'm on only his side, but it's able to support them to able to see, the outside lens of it, And then as well too, we have a talking piece as well too. So you guys can create your guys' own talking piece. It can be a pen or a piece of paper, and then that's how you guys go ahead and you guys do. You guys share the one mic, and when you first start a circle, you do the one agreement. You guys have agreements. Like, okay, these are the way how we're gonna run the circle. Do you guys agree? Is this okay? And then you guys go ahead and you guys can do on, and you guys can practice right here. Yeah. So. We're going to go ahead and we're going to have one facilitator here. We're going to have two individuals. They cause harm to each other. And then those two individuals, whenever you do a transformative justice circle, you're able to go ahead and bring someone with you to the circle. One person that you trust and someone to able to support you. It's not towards to support you and towards because you did something, and that person is going to be on your side the whole time, but it's able to support you and towards to see something else different, because sometimes, we go ahead and we're like, nah, well, I'm right, but this person is supposed to be like, oh, nah, but you want to look at it this way, you want to go ahead and show them a whole different way, because it wants to support them and guide them in a whole different route towards that relationship can be transformed. You guys, I just want to do parents and a child, or you guys want to do school, or how do you guys want to do it? Let's do it. Let's do it with the school, okay? So a teacher and a new student that came into the school, so you guys can go ahead and choose who wants to be the teacher and who wants to be the student. And the student right here, he came into class late. He was high, and he accidentally, cussed at the teacher. How you guys gonna transform that, okay? You guys can go ahead.
I'm sorry, so are we taking one of these scenarios to do?
You guys can do that, one of those, or you guys, oh, that's a scenario in there. Yeah, you guys can choose one of those scenarios there too. I just, that was just an option for there.
Oh, so what you were saying is another option?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because I don't just like to do it with only what's on the paper. I like to make other things various for other people to, because, you want to use, these are life scenarios, these things that has happened. But as well too, you want to create other things that you're able to use this tool in a different way. Whenever you take it back, like you're like, oh, okay, well I did this last time, well, I can probably do it like this, because sometimes different people like to run their circles different, and we're just trying to guide you guys of the basic stuff of doing a transformative justice. So this is just making on your guys' choice, as a circle, because you come into agreements. You guys have when you guys do a transformative justice, you come up to your agreements. And, respect the one mic, don't take nothing personal, stuff like that, And so that's what I like to do right here. It's like, I like to go ahead and have people, if they want to do the skit or they want to, create their own skit, as well too.
And did I hear you saying a talking piece over there?
Yeah, the talking piece. You guys have a talking piece as well too. You guys can create it.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
When the transformative justice model that you put on the slide, the second question is what are the needs and responsibilities of those involved? Is it the facilitator that names the needs?
Yeah,
or do you ask the
you
student?
ask them. You ask them. The facilitator asks the questions.
Okay.
So those questions right there, those are the questions that the facilitator will ask. Yes, that's a good question. So, you guys gonna do number 3? Yeah, because I give the option as well too, to do these scenarios right here on the paper, or you guys can go ahead and I can create a scenario for you. There's personal life experience for myself. You guys want to do number 3 though? So one of the things to keep in mind is we're gonna have one facilitator, the people that were they caused the harm, and then as well too they're able to bring someone as well too with them to support them in that, and that's towards not support them because that they're gonna be on their side the whole time. But it's to support them in, towards like, okay, look, you might not see it this way, but look at it this way, and this, this can help you see different things in a different lens. It's just to help them and guide them. And as well too, coming in with starting off with agreements, having a one mic piece, going ahead, not taking nothing personal, what is said here stays here, So those agreements, are able to go ahead and start off with. And as well, having a talking piece to go ahead and go around is one key thing too, because whoever has a talking piece, holds the mic, and it's that person, it's time to hear them. Okay. So which scenario did you guys choose? You guys didn't choose one? Okay, you guys, we can go ahead and go with one of the scenarios that's on the paper, or, we can go ahead and create one, we can create one for either a school, go ahead and create one for either parents and children, or create one just for, for two friends, and so towards, you guys want to do that, or you guys want to do one of the ones from right there?
I think we had time to read through them. I don't know if we have a preference or likes one in particular. I'm open.
Because one of the key things to know about a transformative justice circle is to, you always have, a talking piece that everyone goes ahead and shares. It can be a paper or a pencil, or it can be something that someone brought in and they're like, well, I want to use this as a talking piece. So like that, when someone grabs that talking piece, it's that one mic. You go ahead and you listen to that individual. You go ahead and your attention is to them. And then as well, when you start off in the circle, you want to have agreements in the circle. You want to have agreements everyone agrees to. So towards, it's about, holding the one mic piece, going ahead and respecting one another. Don't take nothing personal. What is said here stays here, Just some of those agreements, goes ahead and supports, the young person. And as well, too, when you're doing transformative justice circle, you're able to bring someone that's able to support you and able to go ahead and able to show you a whole different way of a different lens of some things, because sometimes some people are like, nah, it's like this, it has to be like this, or, this is how the things went down. But then, when the other person is there to support them, they'll tell them, nah, well, look, check it out. You wanna look at it this way, This is gonna help you out, or, this is what you did, This is how you hurt them out, This is how you affected them, And so that's what that person is supposed to do. It's supposed to help them out and support them, to guide them through the transformative justice circle, So they have that support. Because in the court system, you're always being blamed. You're not able to be heard. You don't have someone to support you to be able to see things in a different way, in a different lens as well too. You guys have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that, like, when you're bringing people together, like, that have maybe had negative experiences, they might be flooded, right? So like, somebody might come to the table. Maybe they've had a bad day. Maybe their mom yelled at them. So they get there and they're upset, and they're not respecting the rules that the group has set. What do you do?
You go ahead, you call a TJ circle, you go ahead and you find someone that's a facilitator, that will go ahead and we'll reach out to everyone. We'll reach out to the mom and reach out for the young person, and we'll tell them, okay, you guys are able to bring someone, to support you, inside the Transformative Justice Circle, and then you sit them down, and then we talk about the agreements. We go ahead and we share the talking piece, and then we talk about the harm, and what's going on in that person's life, why they did that, what are the type of support that they need, what are the steps to go ahead and do for the next following either week, how can we prevent that from happening again, so that's how, the circle will be run for a young person and a parent, to reach out to someone that's able to run the circle, because you want someone that facilitates and is able to ask these questions to everyone. That's like, okay, well, what are your success needs right now from this individual, so you can go ahead and scream at them again, So towards, he talks about, oh, well, I don't like it when, they call me these names. I don't like it when, they talk about me like this, or when they look at me like this, If they don't do that no more, I'll be okay, and so that they'll be like, okay, well, do you hear him out? He needs that from you, Are you able to do that for him? And then that person will be like, oh, yeah, I could do that for them, And so towards, that's how a circle is run through them.
So is it your experience that typically a young person is willing to sit in these circles? I mean, I'm just like, I don't have
No, actually, young people are actually more like, nah, I don't want to do the TJ circle because it's something new and it's never been done, in a lot of places, when they coming from LAUSD system and they don't know, what's the difference between being pushed out of school and be able to sit down and actually talk about it, because we go through this, through all this in our families, that we don't talk about our issues, we don't talk about our trauma, we don't talk about certain things. And when you're in a TJ circle, you're able to talk about the trauma, you're able to talk about, the stuff that you need to go ahead and share, and there's been folks, in there that the TJ process sometimes doesn't work for them, they feel like it doesn't work and they want to, and I do it, and that's okay sometimes. 10 minutes? Okay. Can you announce that?
Oh, we have 10 minutes, everyone.
10 minutes, everybody. So yeah. So if you guys want to choose a skit, that'll be great, and then figure out who's the facilitator, who wants to play which role, who wants to be the support, and then talk about the agreements. For sure.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm ready.
Hey, what's up, fool? You called me? Oh, I'm over here in the California Endowment. Yeah, I'm over here doing the TJ training. Oh, all right then, for sure. I should be done over here by like 3:30 or so, you know? All right, for sure. Like, just run out of time, you know, if we can go ahead and like and just have one person from each group, you know, to talk about the experience, you know, of the scenario you guys had and how you guys went ahead and did the process of the TJ circle, you know, and as well too, you know, and what are you guys, you know, thoughts about it as well too, you know. Can we go ahead and can we start off over here? So just share about your experience of doing the circle, and you know, like just going ahead and you know the little scenario you guys had.
Actually, I enjoyed the process of the circle and having the rules and the boundaries and being able to listen. Because so many times we look at the evidence, but we don't look at the individual. And I think sometimes we need to really take a look at the individual and try to understand where they were coming from, right or wrong. They still have a right to voice their opinion and to voice their side of the story, and we all have a right to listen. And maybe we do more of that, we'll come to an understanding about who they are, and then they can also understand who we are. And then we can come to an agreement. So I enjoy the process.
For sure.
I acted as facilitator, and I was feeling anxious because we kind of barely got into it, but I was like, these guys are never going to agree. Like, where this is just going to get dead-ended really fast. So I haven't been in a TJ or RJ circle before, so like I was kind of curious, like how does it do they usually resolve in the end, and you know, does it get to that conclusion, or is it common just to kind of have a standoff?
Sometimes, you know, for certain circles, you know, sometimes it's hard, you know, because you have one individual that's in a block and they don't want to build, you know, they don't want to try and form something, you know, and is trying to get over, you know, that fence, you know, to be able to work with them and try to make them understand, you know, that you hurt someone else, you know. Or sometimes, you know, it's like talking about, oh, but you were hurt, you know, you want to share, let that person know that they cause harm to you. You know, sometimes, you know, circles, you know, it's not best for them, you know, but we always like, you know, to have them, you know, always keep on trying to communicate with them and let them know that we're here for them and we want to support them, you know, and that's a necessity and a need that they need, that they still need some more time, and, you know, we want to go ahead and call one circle, you know, and sometimes, you know, it takes some time, you know, to you know, actually be able to finish off a circle, you know, and actually go through all the whole process of the steps, you know. Sometimes, you know, that person might just leave, you know, and not want to be there. And you can't force no one to be there in a circle if they don't want to be there.
I have a question. Are TJ circles only used for conflict, or like, I know we use restorative justice circles a lot. If someone has passed away in the school, we give it, like the class gets to make a circle and talk about that, have a place to speak about that, or gang violence, or just different things so they can talk about it. It's not necessarily people in conflict, but can TJ circles be used like that too?
TJ circles could be used like that. One of the things that we have, and the things that we do at YJC, we do our circles, and we have our warrior circles. So towards our warrior circles is for men and women. So towards we break up into groups, because sometimes certain men are not able to share certain things in front of women, you know, to the trauma they've been through and the stuff they've gone through, you know. So we have that, you know, for them. So towards they're able to, you know, talk to other peers about, you know, their issues, about the stuff they're going through, you know, because sometimes certain, you know, young women, you know, or just women overall are not able to talk about certain things with men, you know. And so towards, you know, we have that break off with them, you know. And we do have, you know, circles, and we just go ahead and we just we have morning circles, and then we have circles as well too for everyone, that wants to talk about, of a death that someone happened. One of our community members and organizer, Edilberto, passed away. He was a Lobo, one of the Lobos during that time I was a student, and he's the one that encouraged me and gave me the power to become an organizer. Today, and towards, he passed away, and we did a transformative justice circle, but to transform and celebrate and heal, the stuff that we've been through with him, and the process, the stuff that we learned through him, and, just the happiness and glory that he brought to us, and just, to upbring him, And so that's how one way we've used that as well too.
Well, related to that, what I was very aware of is, I've been part of wisdom circles for many years, but what I realized is that they are always circles where people are invited to come, and like we do a race relations dialogue every month. Well, the people that show up there, they're willingly showing up, and they're, it's a lot of. They may have some deep trauma, but not on the level of what you're talking about with bringing people together, like gang leaders. Like, I don't feel equipped to sit. What I became very aware of is I don't feel equipped to do that. I think I was. Maybe not, I was aware that I wasn't able to do that, but I was really reminded today because we're just talking about, I'm the teacher and she's the student coming, and she gave me a really good reason why she was smoking weed and coming to the classroom, and I, frankly, I was like, and I don't even smoke marijuana, but I was like, maybe I should be able to do that.
Right?
It was very profound. It was that simple of a thing,
Right.
like that base of an issue. But it was like, whoa,
It was different, right?
We had some of that too. Each individual was struggling not to see why this youth was doing what they would. But the issue came up with the lack of flexibility in the law and the zero tolerance policies, and whether or not an individual, in this case our school principal, was really able or had the power to change that, and even law enforcement. And that became well, we didn't get the whole time, but that became the challenge, is that when the system has certain laws that may or may not be flexible, and that was just something that I could see would be some continued discussion and how to work with that. It's stuff you had up there, but it's really apparent, at least in our scenario.
It is.
What I also see, and Mary and I have
Worked
worked
together.
we've worked together in the past, we haven't
We
seen
didn't
each other
realize
in
it.
decades, but I see this a lot with the law and, the social work. And what I thought was great is, you start out having the school officials being very inflexible, but the more they heard from the youth, and the youth supporters and the youth therapists, the more they started thinking, okay, maybe we can find a way around, maybe we can find a way to have an exception. And that was really cool.
Yeah,
And that comes from just the contacts and hearing, I think, directly from the youth, which doesn't happen a lot.
For sure. I'm gonna go 1 and then 2. She shared already 2. Yeah. Is it a burning desire? Yeah. Is it like you want to share? Okay. 1, 2, and then 3. Okay.
I wanted to ask, I was a facilitator, and it was cool that we had somebody that actually has done this work before. So it was helpful to have somebody kind of give us some insight, and then also the victim in our scenario. But one of the things that I realized pretty quickly on was two questions, I guess. As a facilitator, how do you keep a balanced circle that doesn't gravitate to the story of the victim, and kind of it felt like there was already kind of like a side, or like, oh, that sucks that and then there's like a loss of looking at the perpetrator as a person and like as a whole person and that story. So I guess my question is, how do you keep balance in the circle as a facilitator? And then second, how maybe just an observation is just trying to figure out how to word things simply so that I wasn't taking up too much space, and that so I was using words that weren't so that I wasn't being too wordy. So that was something that I caught myself doing, just for me to know. But I guess just one question.
As as a facilitator, you want to create balance towards, you don't want to take off too much attention off the issue, You don't want someone to go on with their story, throughout what they're going. So it's like, having those key agreements is one of the things that really helps out, It's like reminding them, hey, you agreed that, we were going to go ahead, talk about a little bit about the issue and a little bit of stuff that's going on about you, but, we got to move on, we got to go ahead and we got to get to the root of the problem. And as well, too, it's just like one of the things that we say is Elmo. It's like, everyone, let's move on. If you're just on that topic, too much, we could share our life story and we can be here all day, But it's like, we want to go beyond the life story, We want to just get right now to the root of the problem, because later on there'll be more time to grow, and be able to share more about that so we can learn from each other, Because a TJ circle can be done one day and then can be scheduled for another day as well, too, so it can be finished off, And so towards just having follow-ups as well, too, with that. And then, being wordy and stuff like that, like I wouldn't be able to, tell you that much, because sometimes, I have had my own facilitators that facilitated TJ circles that, are a little too wordy with their words, and there's some words they throw that are a little too big, and you're like, well, can you, say that again to me? And sometimes it's kind of hard to, when the facilitator takes up a little too much space or doesn't, so it's just, again, with those agreements, step up, and step down, it's just, having those key agreements and trying to, remind everybody. Sometimes it helps out to have them written down, or sometimes, to everyone have a copy of the agreements, and stuff like that, It's just, those small little key things, those little tricks that can help out everybody, because I can give you the tools and everything, but then sometimes, you're going to use it a certain way, in a different way. I can give you a wrench, but it doesn't say you're going to use the wrench for this purpose, It can be used for a different purpose as well, too.
So we have to end
Yeah.
to be able to make it to the next session on time, but, folks want to ask questions individually.
Yeah, definitely. If I can ask everybody to stand up real quick and we can get in a circle, that'll be great. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to close off with everyone being shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, shoulder to shoulder. If everyone can be shoulder to shoulder, we want to be a little tight. People inside the circle, we don't want no one outside the circle. All right. So we're going to go ahead. If everyone's okay with touching, is everyone here okay with someone touching the shoulder? Is that okay? So right, so is it all right? Put my shoulder already? Okay, so we want to go ahead and we'll put our shoulder on everybody. So you want to use your right hand to put on the left shoulder, right? And so you want to go ahead and we say, I got your back.
I got your back.
Holla back.
Holla back.
Right? And then you throw a little lean to it too. A lean to it, right? All right? All right? And then we do it with the other side too, right? So I got your back.
I got your back.
Holla back.
Holla back.
All right? For sure.